I've been in the digital rights space for a couple of years now, and it's interesting how the digital world is actually come into the forefront now. When it's actually, I think, very much timely that we talk about cyber governance in a space that we're all living here, and this is where we're working, where we're selling stuff. We're also expressing our political opinions in the digital space. So I'll ask for FNF to help me with the PowerPoint presentation. Just put it up. So uh, it's a bit it's about a lot, or it's a bit much to actually talk about the Philippine cyber governance framework, knowing that I have about 30 minutes. So what I plan to do is at least so I'll show you the next picture. So this is actually the Philippine cyber governance framework. When we talk about it, it's a combination of laws, policies, and the Philippines' idea on how we should actually implement or control, or at the very least, make sure that relationships and relations or selling and our digital life is not hampered. It's free, but at the same time, it's regulated. So for my presentation outline, so in the next slide, there's our four big topics. So for the present overview of the Philippine cyberspace plans and policies, a little bit of digital commerce, and a little bit of privacy and security. And then I'll focus much more on cybercrimes. And unfortunately, the list has been growing. So I added also a few bills that might be interesting for everyone. Just also to advise everyone, we can't probably cover everything. So don't worry, the material will be available. And I hope this presentation will actually help you into your own research when you want to know more about the topic. Okay, so the policy of the government for when Philippines is concerned is it actually has a national cyberspace security plan, and this was formulated way back in 2004. So yes, we've actually looked into this, and cyberspace or Philippine cyberspace is defined as the operation of the total apparatus. So it's the computers, your laptops, your iPads, your phones, or any gadgets, and the network where you use to communicate. So it's a combination of systems and networks. And the Philippine cyberspace is actually where information is posted, exploited, manipulated, traded, and accessed by the interaction and communication and collaboration of people and organizations. So they use this through the network of information and communication infrastructures. So everyone that's included in the cyberspace is actually anyone who posts anything online, and anyone who actually creates content offline and then posts online, and also the internet service providers, and even let's say the middlemen, like you use a platform that's also part of the Philippine cyberspace. So when we're talking about the cyberspace, I wanted a first part, I approached how the seminar for everyone to know about when you talk about cybersecurity. Of course, you want to talk about cyber threats. So definition under the law of cyber threats are events, situations, and conditions that tend to reduce, disrupt, degrade, and destroy digital infrastructures. So cyber threats can either be actually waged on you online, or even on infrastructures that support streaming of the network. So in the next slide, I'll see there's some examples. So I won't go into any detail, but feel free to actually access a copy of the National Cybersecurity Plan that is available in the DICT website. So some of the cyber threats are actually categorized as accidents or malfunctions. Some are hacktivism. I think a while back, there was a purported hack of the Sanbeda website. And the hacker said that he or she was doing this to make sure that there was an accusation of unfairness in the school, so they're doing this to bring out a message. So usually hacktivism is connected with a political message. Then there's also cyber terrorism. Cyber terrorism is usually waged on, there's a particular to sow terror in the population. And the difference of techno-terrorism is you actually destroy like a physical structure, for example, a tower, cell tower, to wage or to sow fear into the population. Then there's also very timely right now. That's what you call information warfare. Warfare is mostly you see a lot of information posted online, and most of it actually target or attack each other in terms of either political messages or commercial messages. And finally, there's also cyber threats categorized as foreign intelligence, while some states would want to either spy or get information from another country. So this one, I'll show you like a snapshot of the National Cybersecurity Plan of 2022. So the 2004 plan was updated in 2022. And this is actually a very good snapshot of who is actually working in the government in terms of shared situation awareness, or how did they protect the public from any cyber threats. So at the lead is the ICT. The DICT actually figures out the cybersecurity framework, and the enforcement agencies are divided into three. So first one is the Department of National Defense, which is the lead for national cyber defense. So they defend against the military network from cyber attacks. They also gather foreign cyber threat intelligence and determine attribution. So it's mostly on the security or national defense side. And there's also the NCIAC, which is the lead for the intelligence body established for policy coordination among concerned agencies. Because of course, this is a whole of government effort. So the lead agency is the NCIAC within the DICT. And of course, for us also, the most important that we should later we'll have a short discussion on this is the team of the DOJ and BI, or especially on a discussion on the Office of the Cybercrime, so Office of Cybercrime, and DILG-PNP. So mostly, if this is the lead for investigation, enforcement, and prosecution. So they usually investigate, attribute, and disrupt prosecution cybercrimes, and they lead the domestic national security operations. So it's a joint it's a joint power. So either it can come from the DOJ and BI or the DILG PNP, and they can conduct domestic investigations, and also analyze and dissemination the dissemination of cyber threat intelligence. And most importantly, they're the ones who actually prosecute cyber crimes. And then apart from the government agencies, there's also the intelligence community, and also with coordination with other public, private, and international partners. So that's the cyber governance framework and the National Cybersecurity Plan. So later on, mostly to recap, just for state issues, it goes to DND. But for private crimes or cyber crimes, it's usually DOJ and BI and the DILG-PNP. Okay. So after that, just go over, this is also available on the ICT website. The Philippines actually has what we call a national security policy, which is it's effective from 2011 to 2016, and it's also been developed to actually be updated. So they're thinking of security or cybersecurity in terms of e-governance, and mostly for the deliveries of basic services. And it's like we actually need it now, internet to be used for economic construction and sustainable development, as well as security sector reform. So this hasn't been updated, but it's quite possible that we'll have an updated one, especially after COVID, especially after the pandemic happened. Okay. All right. So first of the three laws that we'll be covering today, it's the trifecta of what we call the digital rights laws. The first is the E-commerce Act. The second is Data Privacy Act, and third is the Cybercrime. So e-commerce is the good, or it's more of the commerce part of the internet. So it's actually been pretty robust right now, and it was actually envisioned and passed back in 2000. I think the Philippines has a lot to catch up in terms of ASEAN neighbors, because e-commerce is still in the 30% utilization in the Philippines. So a bit lagging behind our ASEAN neighbors, but it's also one thing that has flourished during the pandemic because we can't go out. The goods and services come to us. So in the e-commerce act, it's actually interesting that before 2000, there was no formal recognition of electronic forms of data messages and documents. So all of those e-contracts were not recognized in court. In fact, there's even you would have to produce physical paper, and this law was passed in 2000. Also, the important thing of the e-commerce act was it provides rules on storage of information. For example, when you use internet service provider, so for now it's either Globe, Smart, or Converge, they do have a rule on how long they can actually save information. So it's mostly after a certain time, 24, it's erased, and you'd have to procure a court order to make sure that it's still in the servers. So it's both good and bad. It's erased, so it's good you have privacy. But if you need the data to prove a case, or if cybercrime happened to you, you have to act fast. Otherwise, the ISP provider will delete it. So it's both good and bad. And unfortunately, for you to, if it's honest, if you need evidence, you will need to secure a warrant to actually get that information. So it's not also moving fast enough, especially also when you need to take down a certain website or certain website that infringes on your intellectual property. So that's a bit of just a heads up on the e-commerce act. And also, at the last is, there's also penalties for illegal access of data without consent, piracy, hacking, and other violations. So before 2000, it was actually difficult to prove, and it was a separate crime altogether for all crimes that happening in digital space. So this includes penalties for infringement of copyright done digitally, and also similar to piracy and hacking and other violations. So it provides that, for example, a platform, or you buy an item in a website or an e-commerce platform, that e-commerce and it turns out to be fake, you actually can go against the e-commerce platform for not making sure that what you are buying is a legitimate or the correct item. So it's also something that you can use. The e-commerce act also has consumer rights. It extended the realm of consumer rights to buyers also. Okay. Just a bit of what the government plans for e-commerce and the development of e-commerce. It's actually 5 ways. So of course, one part is information security. That's very important because when you order, you would want to make sure that your address is not disclosed, right? So there's also an element of data privacy. A lot of government efforts are also actually being used into electronic payments. So right now there is a PesoNet and InstaPay, and a lot of banks were actually made to comply into a system where you can actually remit money into the bank account. And it proved to be it was actually launched in 2019. It is very tiny because a lot of payments, at least for private transactions, were done through electronic payment. And slowly, because we're all adjusting to not going out, there's been a move to make payment to government contributions and taxes online. But of course, there's still a lot of improvement needed there. But it's a first step. Hopefully, it gets easier as the day goes by, so we don't have to line up physically in any just to pay government contributions and taxes. And also, there's one of an important pillar of e-commerce is consumer protection. The DTI actually entertains a lot of questions for consumer complaints, especially against electronic platforms who allow selling of pirated products or infringed products. And they also have a consumer protection desk. Also, they also allow for prosecution or at least administrative sanctions for sellers who do not sell the right item or use excessive kinds of promotion do not match up to the product. And finally, part of the roadmap, which I think we need right now also for improvement, is on logistics. So It's more of last mile, so that whatever you deliver is sent to the consumer on time. So that's the e-commerce roadmap for 2016 to 2022. There's a lot of it is also a complement of policy, environment, and infrastructure development. Okay, so this is it's a good topic also. The second, what do you call the second kind of law, or the in the trifecta of digital rights. An important one to protect yourself is also Privacy Act of 2012. So that's Republic Act number 10173. So of course we get a lot of these spam messages. Usually they get your number, and then they ask you, they sell items to you, at least for that. But some actually, this information gets passed down, and sometimes there's a proliferation of cyber crimes that arise when the Data Privacy Act is violated. So maybe we'll have a discussion on the scams later on when we were talking about cyber crimes. We'll focus most of our discussion for today. So the Data Privacy Act protects individuals from unauthorized processing of personal information that's both private and unidentifiable. So for examples of this are your personal address, your mobile number, your any of your information with the government. So that includes governmental contributions, your tax identification number. And mostly in the listing under the Data Privacy Act of 2012, all of these are information that could make it possible for anyone to actually take over your identity or take over your bank accounts. So that's what the Data Privacy Act protects. And this one is actually a responsibility on companies with at least 250 employees, or access to the personal and identifiable information of at least 1,000 people. Also, this includes not just companies, and they're required to register with the National Privacy Commission for purposes of compliance. And of course, for the data privacy protocol, so this means that companies will have to implement a data privacy audit, make sure that information given in the company is secure. And if you're an employee, your employment details, your government details or registrations with the government, as well as your address and your cell phone number, is not given without your consent. So that's the important thing about the Data Privacy Act of 2012. So, okay. So that's the law. I put in here Executive Order number 810. This actually, I put it here because it's a good chance for everyone to actually take advantage of. This institutionalizes the certification scheme for digital signatures, and it directs the application of digital signatures in e-government services. So if you go to the ICT website, you can actually apply for a PNKI signature. This means that you will go into the process of authenticating your signature. At first, this was a program by the government for judges and prosecutors and government offices like SSS, PhilHealth, or even tax authorities to apply for and secure an official digital signature. So with this program, so it's PNPKI, you can actually apply and get your own authenticated digital signature. So this will be easier in future transactions. For now, the application is free. So I invite everyone to actually take advantage of this, especially for corporations. If you have a lot of external communications, authenticating your digital signatures through the e-government services will be very, very helpful. So it's in the DICT website, and it's an application for PNPKI signature. Okay, so the next is I'm just a short discussion on there's actually an administrative order ordering most of the government web hosting services to the ICT, and there's going to be an actual e-government fund to make sure or more if you migrate the government services from offline to online. So it's currently being implemented. And one of the things also that we see is that the the current pandemic actually pushed a lot of initiatives on e-government faster than it was going the past couple of years. Okay, so the last on the frameworks is for anyone who also wants to know, there's actually what you call the Philippine National Standards, or similar to ISO standards. It's actually a national standard on information security management systems, and there's a code of practice for information security management. So for those companies, big companies who would want to have a certified or a really good protocol on how to protect their consumers and their employees to conduct a really good audit, the Philippine National Standards in the DTI Bureau of Product Standards actually has draft standards or audit process which you can follow. So you can see you can download this from the DTI Bureau of Product Standards, Philippine National Standards website. Okay, so the more important, I think we'll spend some time here with discussion of cybercrime laws. So pardon me a bit, but I'll be reciting some legal definitions because I think during this time we should also be aware of the cyber crimes that we might be accused of, or it might be perpetrated upon us. So aside from cyber threats, these are the cyber crime laws that would be that we should also take notice of. So these are the violations of our cybercrime law. So the laws are actually Public Act numbers 9775, 9995, and 10175. Later, we'll have a discussion also. I included the newly passed anti-terror bill. So first is there are actually about 10 cyber crimes. Okay, the first one is illegal or unauthorized access to a computer system or application. So for example of this is somebody hacked your computer system, your laptops, your gadgets, or application if somebody had illegal access to your Facebook account. So that's a crime. Second is illegal or unauthorized interception of any non-public transmission of computer data to and from within a computer system. So an example of this is someone hacked or published, say, your Viber chats, or somebody actually published them online. So it's both a violation of your data privacy rights, and it's also a violation, or it's a cybercrime law. So it's in the authorized interception of non-public transmission. So that's private chats. And third is data interference or unauthorized alteration of any data, electronic data document or electronic data message, including the transmission or introduction of viruses. So part of this also, if somebody posted your message but altered certain parts of it and made it appear that it came from you when it really didn't come from you, or the message was altered, then it's a violation of or it's a cybercrime law. The same also when a digital contract that you signed was altered, and when you look at it years from now, or when you try to implement that, you see that some of the provisions have been erased, then that's cybercrime. Okay, next. So the next two. So for the next slide, we'll go for the discussion. Okay. So the next two is the system interference or unauthorized hindering or interference with the functioning of a computer or computer network. This is actually done by either you damage, you delete the entire computer system, you alter, or you actually suppress the computer data or program from transmission. So an example of this is when there's like the numerous viruses that actually interfere with the functioning of a system. Also, part of this is a denial of service. So sometimes hackers would go into a website and they stop or they damage the website to make it services cannot be accessed. Also, an example is for the hacking of those let's say, for example, what I think happened to PLDT, their Twitter account was hacked. So this is also an example. Okay. So next is the misuse of devices or unauthorized possession, production or sale, or anywhere in the supply chain of any program designed for the purpose of committing any of the offenses in the Cybercrime Prevention Act. So, for example, you have skimming machines. So that's the misuse of this device. If you have a computer and you suit it up just for the purpose of attacking or having a phishing attack, or you actually interfere with government processes or in a website, that's also a violation of the Cybercrime Prevention Act. Okay, so other crimes is also cyber squatting or the acquisition of a domain name. So that's actually possible to be a cyber crime. In fact, I think there's some what they call trademark trolls or patent trolls who actually register a domain name, and they use it. They actually they take the domain hostage just so that you can profit, or they just register it that you can profit from later. That's also a cybercrime. And the next is computer-related forgery, or it's the unauthorized input, alteration, or deletion of any computer data resulting to inauthentic data with the intent that it be acted upon for legal purposes as if it were authentic. So this is happening a lot right now. Like, for example, a lot of people forge documents. I've seen some of it happen actually through the years, mostly during the pandemic. A lot of people are pretending to say, they're pretending that they say that they pretend to be you, and they go to Globe or to Smart saying that I lost my SIM card. Can you please issue a new one? And then they send emails of their IDs and authorization letter. And they actually get something. They get your SIM card. And because of this SIM card, they can actually try to access your information or banking information online. So this is happening a lot now, especially we're spending more and more time in the digital space. So computer-related forgery or the unauthorized input alteration of computer data. And part of it is also for gain, but some of it also I'm seeing a lot now that for in terms of information, it's also production of fake news or information. So they make it appear that a data is or a computer document is actually authentic when it's not. There's actually a lot of computer related forgery, like Photoshop, something to that effect. So that's a common crime that's happening a lot nowadays. And next is computer related fraud. So this is the deletion of any computer data or program or interference with the functioning of a computer system. So an example of this is there's an attack on a particular, let's say, banking institution, and they try to delete the software that accesses makes it possible for consumers to access their information online without fraudulent intent. Then that's a computer-related fraud. Okay. The next couple of crimes are the heinous crimes covered by the Anti-Child Pornography Act of 2009. So, okay, so the first two is the computer. Sorry, before we go to Anti-Child Pornography Act, there's one. There's I think very timely. We'll discuss this later on. So I'll go with this slowly. So it's what we call computer-related identity theft for the authorized acquisition, use, misuse, transfer, possession, alteration, or deletion of identifying information belonging to another, whether natural or juridical. So, good question, right? Is if someone steals your account in Facebook or pretends to be you, is it a violation of a cybercrime? Yes, it's a violation of cybercrime, especially if they use it with intent to gain or there's malicious intent. So later on, we'll discuss. So if you're a victim of this, the first thing you do is have Facebook take it down. So there are two kinds or two ways of having Facebook take it down. Either you report it and then Facebook takes it down, or if they still don't take it down, there's actually a measure where a lawyer can write saying there's identity theft happening. So you present it with screenshots. Please have it take it down. If Facebook doesn't take it down, you have the option, especially when there's a misuse, they started using your private photos and they started to act like you. You can actually execute an affidavit and file it with the NBI Office of Cybercrime. There's a bit about, you just have to have it notarized, but maybe there's an exception because it's the pandemic. So what you do in that affidavit is you take screenshots and then you start, you narrate what happened and you prove also that your identity was stolen, or there's an unauthorized or acquisition or use of your identity in Facebook. So this is I think something that we should look into, and maybe later on, if Facebook is not acting on this, or any other platform is not really verifying or removing fake accounts, then maybe there should be an investigation on these kinds of platforms. So it's very timely right now. So again, the measure is you ask Facebook to take it down. If they don't take it down, there's a provision. You can have a lawyer write a letter and file it in Facebook. And if Facebook still doesn't take it down, you have also the option to file an affidavit of complaint with the NBI, Office of Cybercrime. And the NBI can actually get or procure a warrant for this to be taken down. Again, this is a bit of, I know it takes some time, and that's the thing also with cybercrime and other offenses. For now, you need a warrant to have it taken down. It's a bit slow, but the good thing is there's an upcoming review of the E-commerce Act and the cybercrime laws. So maybe this is something that should go faster. Like if there's no court available, we could have like a 24, or they can issue warrants to have this taken down. So that's for computer-related identity theft or fraud. Okay, so next is cyber sex or willful engagement through the use of computer system. And there's child pornography or unlawful or prohibited acts punishable in the Child Pornography Act 2009. Those are actually very heinous laws. So once caught, it's I think one of the non-bailable crimes. So if you have any, actually there's a rise of domestic violence crimes happening right now. So if you're aware, please report it as soon as possible. And finally, in the 10 crimes in the cybercrime, the old cybercrime law is aiding or abetting in the commission of a cybercrime. So for example, you rendered services or sold equipment that is necessary, that you know is going to be in the commission of cybercrime, is also punishable. Okay. All right. Next. Okay, this is very interesting topic, and I know will be a lot of questions on this later on. So we'll discuss cyber libel. So before there was cyber libel, there is Article 355 of the Revised Penal Code, which is libel. So the definition of libel is a public and malicious imputation. So the imputation, it can actually be true or not. It doesn't matter, so long as it's public and malicious, and it tends to cause dishonor, discredit, or contempt of an individual or blacken the memory of the deceased. Again, libel is the malicious imputation of a vice or wrong, and it's even if it's true or not, it can be accepted as libel. But later on, we'll go through the defenses. The truth is actually a defense, but if it's a malicious imputation, then you can be guilty of the crime of libel. Cyber libel is committed through a computer system or any other similar means. And the libel is considered another kind of crime, which is cyber libel. So before the passing of the cyber libel law, it's actually just libel, normal crime. It prescribes in 1 year. And then there's just an additional that was committed through a computer system. But now it's a new crime, cyber libel. And unfortunately, the prescription period is longer. So it's 12 years from publication. And the Supreme Court has actually ruled that publication is posting. So yes, it's correct that when you post something that's libelous, it's actually considered as publication. Okay. So just a bit of a short discussion on the elements of cyber libel. Maybe later we'll go into the published cases. Okay, for cyber libel to prosper, the following elements must be present. So there's a discreditable act or condition concerning another. So this is the malicious imputation. And second, there's a publication of the charge. So the publication is posting it online, making it accessible to the public. And third is identity of the person is defamed. And this is very important. There's an existence of malice. And finally, it's committed through a computer system. Okay. So there are actually quite a few cases. Before cyber libel, so there was the case of Dr. Vicky Bello, which was dismissed. And after the cyber libel case was or cyber libel law was passed, there is the one questioning some there's the case also of Dicini et al. Versus Secretary of Justice questioning some provisions of the cybercrime law, especially on cyber libel. So far, the aiding and abetting, they wanted to have it stricken down, but it's still there, unfortunately. And unfortunately, in the case liking, commenting, sharing, or retweeting defamatory is comments is actually also a violation. So it's a bit tricky also. In the case of this 2020, so it's uh okay. The tricky thing about laws right now, we're going through a discussion on what is prohibited. But I'm not really making a pronouncement whether it's the correct law or it doesn't violate human rights. So it's just what it is right now. But I'm not saying that it can't be corrected later on for violation of international human rights. So in the case of People versus Santos, so you're aware, if libel or cyber libel is committed against a private person, malice is presumed. So this is a bit contrary to other libel laws. I've had experience in the past also in terms of litigation that you have to prove malice. So you have to prove that there's actually intent to defame. And there's the intent to actually besmirch the reputation of the person. But this is quite tricky now in the current jurisprudence, specifically for cyber libel. If it's committed against a private person, malice is presumed. So that's the state of the law. And so for cyber libel, the current state of the law is proof of truth. Any defenses that you may use is you have to show that the proof of truth coupled with proof and good motives or justifiable ends, according to the case, also may be used as a defense against libel. For example, if the information is true or it's publicly accessible and it's a nature of a public concern also, and good motives, like you would want to say this is information that is critical for everyone, then it can be used as defense against cyber for those cases concerning it's a bit tricky again. I would there's a bad joke going around that cyber libel now is the new VP 22. So there's actually a lot of cases going on. And I really, really hope that this current pronouncement will be corrected. Or can be there's a new one saying that you have to prove malice before libel is proven. Okay. Of course, a few words on the other famous case is People of the Philippines versus Ressa and Rappler Incorporated. So the criminal case is actually with the Regional Trial Court of Manila, and there in the decision, it's the trial court found that the article is defamatory because it impugns Mr. King as a human trafficker and drug smuggler. So this is the case right now, and the publication, the date of the publication on the website is May 29, 2012, and updated on February 19, 2014. So The current case of the law is for every publication constitutes one count of cyber libel. So for at least in the Rappler case, still RTC level can be appealed. So what we have now is when it was published in the website in 2012, that's one count, and it was republished or it was published again or republished same content on 2014. That's another count of cyber libel. So again, that's the state of the law. Hopefully changes, but so you're aware, that's how the court is deciding it right now. Okay. Also in the Reza case, just a bit of an mentioning again, the court that since Mr. Kang was a private person, the law presumes that there's an existence of malice. So it's quite difficult. So of what who you're of the if the article's written against a private person, not a public figure, unfortunately there's a presumption of malice on your part. Okay. And we'll discuss later on in the questions also. Okay. So just a bit of technical knowledge on how you report cybercrime laws. This is a different just a table on what are the different types of cyber laws or incident reports. So just so for enterprise hacking, just so you know, so there are three kinds shown here in the table. There's closed enterprise. So closed enterprise means that it's a closed system. That's your internet and the enterprise network. So these are private emails. So when you file a complaint, you would have to say it's a closed enterprise, and these are the people who have access. Extended enterprise means some other people have access to your email. So for example, in those enterprise email account for employees, for extended enterprise may be extended to clients. For open enterprise network, so it's different. This is a different system altogether. It's actually an online system, for example, for banks that you can address your information. So these are the different kinds of incident reports. So when you file it, you have to also make you have to distinguish also to make a good cybercrime complaint if the information was came from a closed enterprise, meaning your laptop, your email is closed. Extended enterprise, maybe it's an office or a family account. Just limited family open enterprise. It's something like online your credit report or it's your banking information can be accessible to anyone. So also that's the same. I'll skip the other slides. Okay. Just for your information also. So a quick look at the next slide on the types of incident reports. So for threats and attacks. First, more close to your system is, the less vulnerable it is to attacks. The more open your system is, the more vulnerable it is to attacks and threats. So just a bit of a rundown on tools for cyber attacks on systems. So there's I think we've known this also, for example, with the Trojan horse, you download the software or you download something online and it actually infects your computer. So it's actually also a good time to remind everyone, there's a very famous app in Facebook where I'm not going to mention the name, but it's the application where you go out of Facebook and they take your photo and then a photo of someone else, and then they'll predict how your future child will look like, or how would you look like if you were a different gender. So be careful with that. That's actually an example of a backdoor or trapdoor or a virus, or they actually use your info to access your information. So be very careful for these kinds of things, especially if they access your information. It may so be careful when, and it's fun, but it's also a way to attack you. Okay. So I'll just skip the kinds of those are the examples of cyber attacks. But the more common one to consumers is that you log into an app, you put in your photo, they now have your information. So be very careful with that. So an example of cyber attacks also like that is be careful of skimming machines. So you only withdraw or you give your credit. Make sure when you give your credit card, it's readily seen or in front of you, just so you're aware that it's not being skimmed or copied. This can later be used by another person. Okay. So we're almost at the end of the line, but it's very, very important. I have uh, okay, two more laws that I wanted to discuss before we open the floor for questions. Okay, cybercrime and the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. So Republic Act 11479 will take effect on July 18, 2020, which is 15 days after the publication. So the good thing is there are actually uh, cases filed with, so that's actually tomorrow. So very timely. So it takes effect tomorrow. There are a lot of Supreme Court filings already questioning the constitutionality. So we hope it goes well. So this is the state of the law. Uh, when you talk about anti-terrorism, you go back to the definition of terrorism. So terrorism is you use violence to sow fear or terror in a population, either for malice or for the intent of harm, or worse, if there's actually a a political element behind it. And the attack is this defined here is it's targeted against a critical infrastructure, or in the Cybercrime or Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, it include virtual assets or systems essential to the maintenance of vital societal functions. So for this critical infrastructure, this includes government websites. And also for that, it's engage with the acts to cause extensive damage or interference can be considered as terrorism. So next slide. Sorry, it's a bit. We can discuss more later on the provisions. But just to almost to close this off, so we got this from the DOJ on how to report the cybercrime. So those are the then so first you report the cybercrime through incidents either as walk-in, or I think in this next slide I think there's a online filing also. So we'll just give this over to Frederick Naumann Foundations. You want to go over through this also, but there's some reporting. There's a medium of the uh, reporting in a cybercrime case. Okay. So we'll just go to the next slide. What's important is that you just need a complete affidavit or sworn statement. So again, this is for anyone whose accounts or their fake accounts, you can actually opt to report the cybercrime before the NB in the DOJ cybercrime office. Okay. So again, okay, this one I think we should all be aware. There's a new law. This was filed last year, but refiled again. It's Senate Bill number 9, just filed on July 1st, 2020. It's called the Proposed Anti-False Content Act. So the Proposed Anti-False Content Act prohibits the posting of false content or information. And uh, it's still so I invite everyone to actually download the copy of Senate Bill number 9 in the Senate website. But so the standard for the punishable offense is knowing or having a reasonable belief that the information is false. So just so you know, it's been filed in July 1, 2020. So if there's any, I should be vigilant in the passage of the law, because the standard for the punishable offense that you have reasonable belief that the information is false. So I think currently the Office of the Cybercrime of DOJ is was prosecuting crimes that were what you call fake or false information related to the pandemic. So I think they've also made announcements that this is their priority. So maybe after this because under that it was prosecuted under the Bayanihan Hilas 1 Act, but it may continue under the proposed Anti-False Content Act. So with that, that's actually a short overview of the Philippine Cyber Governance Framework. I know it's a lot, but at least I hope this gives you more I guess, leads on where to read up next. So I've also listed the website if anyone is um, interested. So with that, I actually have two quotes that I included. So first one is for on security for companies. Richard Clark was the security analyst who predicted, but unfortunately he was ignored, the 9/11 attacks. And he said then back then in 2002 that if you spend more money on coffee than IT on security, you will be hacked and you deserve to be hacked. So for us also, it's a call for vigilance for anyone. Please be careful. So my suggestions are you actually have a password management system and you be careful with your passwords and be very, very vigilant of anyone asking your credit card details online. So be very, very careful when you actually spend time online. And the more important thing, actually, also, I'll leave you with this quote. It's from Roderick Vincent in his latest book, The Cost. It's very timely. It's a good book. It's a dystopian novel about the U.S. It's a foreign state hunting down people of color in the U.S. So that's the novel. It's a dystopian novel by Roderick Vincent. And the thing about being in digital realities or in this cyber world is the underworld reality itself has elastic properties. It is capable of being stretched into different definitions. So we have to be vigilant, especially if we look into what information is online. So we ourselves also we should actually promote integrity in promoting or posting what we a very well researched fact. And if you see that's false, we also have to do something about it. So that's it. Thank you. And we're, I think, opening now the floor for questions.